Good morning and welcome to Tower Gardening Made Easy. And I'm Sherry, and this is episode 10 of Let's Talk About It. So, as usual, I've got a great show planned for us today, and I want to get started with something that really was special that happened to me this week. So, let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about it. If you can dream it, you can grow it. And that's what happened. So, you all know that I planted this watermelon tower months ago, and it's been doing great. We struggled in the beginning with a little bit of algae, but we got that taken care of and under control. And as you can see here on my left, this is the tower, and I've kind of modified it. So if you remember the cucumber tower a while ago, where it just got so big, I went out and I bought these two little trellises. They're kind of like iron, they're heavy. And I was draping the vines of the cucumber tower on it just to kind of give it, to let it air out a little bit. So the same thing's happening with the melons. And I just thought to myself, these vines, unlike the cucumber, they're 3D. Okay, so just think of like a cord, a round cord, or a jungle vine. That's what they look like. And they're thick and they're heavy, and they need to be because they're supporting fruit that inevitably is going to be relatively heavy. And so, as you can see here on the very, very right, I've got the time lapse camera on one of the smaller pollinated watermelon, and it's super cute. And I'm watching in the time lapse every day, like, is it getting bigger? Is it getting bigger? But the main one that I discovered last week, I was like, I need to support this because it's getting big. How I did not see it, it was hiding under that vine. It was crazy. So I went to a local grocery store going, do you guys have any netting? And I made this makeshift hammock and took a picture of it. So then later in the week, I decided, yeah, it's time to really spread these vines out, get that airflow going, open that window. As you can see it behind, there's a window there. And the picture here over on my right is the revised hammock where it's just the netting. And I took a piece of string and I wrapped it kind of around the top and kind of tied it. And then it's tied into that dowel stick. So it's pretty secure and it's got room to move. But I've got other netting bags that I can advance it to as it gets a little bit bigger. Now, this variety of seed is called Sugar Baby, I think, and it's not going to get like those, 10, 12 pound watermelons. So it's going to stay on the smaller side. And again, the tower will probably, it will dictate how big it will get. So I can't imagine that it's going to get huge, but I'm just excited to have, I think I have like maybe five right now that are pollinated. So I have three big ones, two big ones, one medium, and then a bunch of small. But I can see the small getting, really fast. They're growing into it. So I posted this out there because I was just so happy and so thrilled because you just don't see this very often. And so Tower Garden reached back to me and said, would it be okay for us to, share this or to promote would be the wrong word, but to kind of put you out there. And I said, absolutely, because this is all about teaching and sharing and letting our community know that if you can dream it, you can grow it. And so I did a video. You can look back on my lives where it says from seed. This is the thumbnail, from seed to swing: how I'm growing watermelon indoors. So you can go back and you can see. I think I will add a playlist with all the watermelon different videos so you guys can watch them in order. But you can do it. So I was so happy and so thrilled and so honored that they wanted to share that you can do it. It's not hard, and I'm doing it in my basement under grow lights. So thank you, Tower Garden, for doing that. I appreciate it. But then this happened. So let me segue into this. There's always one person. So in the comments, everyone was like, congratulations. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. How did you do this? And so I'm answering the questions the best I can and really just saying to some people like, hey, if you're a beginner, master that. And we're going to get into that in a quick second. But this is more of a, phase 3, phase 4, advanced level type of thing. You really need to understand your pH, your nutrients, and, what you're growing on your tower to do this, but it can be done. And so I was a little disappointed by this. So if you look here to the left, an admin did this, and they wrote, we started talking about like squash and zucchini being, grown on the towers, and even butternut squash, things that are just a bigger variety. And they came back and they said it doesn't grow well indoors, needs lots of space and pollinated. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be a negative Nelly, but I'm the type of person that I corrected it. And so I waited a day because they took down this comment where I say I disagree. And basically, I'm growing watermelon indoors. I currently have pollinated zucchini and summer squash that I harvest on a weekly basis. It's weekly, bi-weekly. It just depends. And it's not hard. You just need to stay on top of it. That's all. Just need to be super organized. But for an admin to do that, I was a little disappointed. Um, and they took down the comments. So I waited a day and then I posted these two pictures because I was about to take a tower apart that had squash and zucchini on it. I wanted to clean it and get it, just right back to, basically factory reset is what I did. So I could set this up as my pumpkin tower. Well, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And this admin didn't respond. She left it alone. And just don't squash people's dreams, I guess is the takeaway here. If somebody wants to grow something, let them. And if they don't succeed, that's why we have these communities. You put it out there and say, how can I do that? And the one person or the few people that do it, that do respond, they can walk you through that process of a squash or a zucchini or whatever you're trying to grow, and just say, try this, try this. What is your nutrient set at? What is your pH set at? Go download my form. Stay in that range. And it's like learning to drive a car. You didn't just get behind the wheel, you had someone teach you. And so if someone wants to grow squash or zucchini or whatever it is, there's somebody out there that's done it. Maybe they weren't successful. Maybe they just didn't have the time. They had, four kids and full-time job, and I don't know. But I really want to be successful at this, and I want to help the community grow whatever they want. Dream it big, and make it happen. That's what I say to that. So don't ever let someone squash your dreams. And I was disappointed in the admin for taking down the comment because I'm simply saying I'm doing it. And there's the proof. Two pictures that I harvested that night that I posted this. And then I made a lovely little dish with sauteed both of these with a little bit of just spray butter and a little bit of cheese, and I baked it. Oh my God, it was delicious. It was so delicious. And then I cleaned the tower. So don't let someone squash your dreams. You can grow this stuff. As a matter of fact, I met a new person and she has a butternut squash that is pollinated and it's growing. And I was like, dang girl, I'm doing that because it takes butternut squash is about 4 months, kind of like the watermelons. So I'm like, I'm going to order my seeds now and they'll be ready for fall. I don't want butternut squash now, but they'll be ready when fall comes. So maybe I'm going to give that a whirl too. You just got to try. Like, if you don't try, you don't know. And that's where I'm going to segue into this now. Check this out. So in this long thread, someone throws out there, hey, why don't you do a pumpkin tower? And I go, hey, that's a great idea. I'm going to do a pumpkin tower. So that's why I cleaned out the squash tower and I moved the existing plants that were there over to another tower. So I have a factory reset tower ready to go. And then yesterday, ta-da, my pumpkin seeds showed up. So I'm going to go ahead and start this today by doing a video a little bit later. So this is how we're going to do this. So on the website, there is a new page and basically it just has this tower here to the left. And what I'm going to do is put all of the different videos that I'm going to make on the pumpkin, basically tower as we plant them. We germinate them, we plant them, we let it grow. And then once we have a viable pollinated pumpkin, I will take one of the time-lapse cameras and place it on there like I do the watermelon right now, and then we'll start the journey. But we're going to have some fun along the way because, I don't know a whole lot about pumpkins, nor did I know about watermelons. So I'm going to do a little research and just have some fun to share with you. But if I can grow a watermelon, why can't I grow a pumpkin? Let's do it. But I just thought it would be fun to kind of build out that page. So if you go to the home page of the Tower Garden Made Easy website, you'll see where it says Pumpkin Challenge on the table. You just click on it and it's going to take you right to the page, and then you can watch all of the different videos. You can also watch them on YouTube. I'll do a playlist for sure. But pumpkin challenge accepted. Let's do it. All right, so let's go ahead and move on. All right. So it's springtime, and everybody wants those perfect lawns. And they look at dandelions as a weed, which it is, and it's an aggressive weed. But did you know that it's edible and it has some really good properties to it? So before you try to kill it with Roundup and all kinds of chemicals, take a minute, take a breath, and I want you to go into the description of this podcast and download this article that I found. It just popped up one day, and I just said, hey, let me read this. Now, I was first introduced to dandelions as a bodybuilder. And to get ready for a show, it takes about 16 weeks. And just a quick little segue here. And at the very, very end, we go through this thing called prep week. And basically, we are trying to get rid of any what they call sub-Q water in our body so that if you don't have a lot of fat left, your muscle is beautiful and engorged, and then you get rid of the water, and the skin sits perfectly on top. And that's when you look at these shows or pictures of bodybuilders, that's how they get that look. And we use diuretics. Now, most people who are smart, they don't do the prescription, they do natural diuretics. And there are many of them, and one of them is dandelion root. Okay, another one is celery. Another one is asparagus. So if you've ever eaten a lot of asparagus at dinner and discovered I'm going to the bathroom in the middle of the night like 3 and 4 times, it's because it's a natural diuretic. But dandelions are a little bit different. They are outside, and people look at them as a weed, but they have some really good properties to them. And I honestly did not know until I read this article. So that's why I encourage you to click on that and print it or just read it and take bits from it. I'm not saying everybody's unhealthy, but the one thing that I will say that it says in this article that it does, that I know that it does not do, it says that it builds muscle. And it does not do that. There's no protein. Okay, protein is amino acids, and that is what builds muscle. But what this does is that it has a lot of properties that, and I'm just going to quickly go through it because I don't want to spend our whole time on this. But just real quickly, it supports liver health. It's like a detoxifier. So you can actually take that yellow flower and sprinkle it on top of a salad or put it into your juicer, just a little bit, not a whole lot. And that's a really, really good. The other thing too are the greens. You could take them right out of your yard, rinse them, dice them, put them into a salad or juice them, whatever you prefer. Now, what the companies do is what they want is the root, and they'll use some of the properties from the top. But what they do is they dehydrate the root and they grind it down. And that's how they make dandelion root, like caplets or tablets, whatever they're called. And so it can help with detoxifying livers. So if you're on medications that are a little hard on the liver, you can take this. I wouldn't suggest taking it every day, maybe a couple times a week would be just fine. It says that it helps with diabetes. Well, diabetes tends to have some inflammation to it. So again, it's a diuretic, so it's going to help in that department. Urinary health. Don't know a whole lot about that, but you could do some research if you've got some, issues around there. Better skin. So I've had to think about this one, and I just go, if it's a detoxifier, you could take one of your masks and take some of the powdered root and mix it in there and put that on, and I could see where that would be, help your skin. So if you have a teenager that drinks a lot of milk or has a lot of dairy and they've got a lot of acne, A, get them off the dairy, but B, they could take this because it would lower the inflammation in their skin, which is what acne is. And it would help them as a natural, derivative to some of the prescription medicines for acne. So I thought that was very interesting. It says cancer. I'm going to leave this one alone because I'm not a doctor and I don't really want to touch on that because there's all kinds of different cancers out there. And you can read the article for yourself and see whether or not that this section is applicable for you. But I'm going to skip over that. Jaundice. Well, what is jaundice? It's part of, a damaged liver. So again, detoxifying. Gallbladder disorder. Again, liver. So as you can see, this thing that's in our yard that's just garbage, everyone thinks it's a weed, has some really good properties. So please go ahead and click on that link below and give it a whirl and read it. I really found it fascinating for some, little thing that we all have learned to hate. So let's go ahead and move on. And again, that's going to be in the description. All right, stink bugs. So if you've ever found these in your house, whether it's in this early spring or in the fall, I'll just say this off the bat. It's a stupid bug. Okay. If you've ever had them in your house and then they try to fly away, they crash and burn. They just are not very smart. They're very harmless. I will say, though, if they get on your towers, they're looking for vegetation to lay eggs. So you definitely want to take them off of your tower. You want to turn over your leaves and you want to be looking at them to make sure that they're not laying their eggs. Now, I don't recommend the Bronner soap on the tower. However, when I lived in Wayland, we had a major problem with this bug. They got into the house and they just like the warmth and they stay and then they multiply. And they can really eat anything to survive. But what I found as a natural alternative to like sprays and pesticides, because we all know how I feel about that, is I took Dr. Bronner soap, which is a very strong peppermint soap, and mixed it 2 to 1 in a spray bottle. And I went and I sprayed all of the windows in our attic, and it got rid of them. It killed them, and it kept them out until we sold the house. So it get rid of everything. So if you have a problem with stink bugs, try the 2 to 1 Dr. Bronner soap. You will not be disappointed. It's very inexpensive to make, and it's also safe versus some of those pesticides you don't want to be spraying around your house or just you in general. So, and just to say this, they're harmless. Those bugs they're not going to hurt you. They're not going to bite you. They're not going to hurt your pets or your children. They're just a nuisance, and you don't want them inside, and you definitely don't want them on your towers. So get them off your towers and check for eggs. So let's go ahead and move on. All right, so I added this in at the very last second, and this was a very interesting post. So this woman had, I guess, must have just filled up her reservoir, and it says every time my tower garden turns on for watering, the water pours out of the 4 bottom ports. So in this thread, everyone's like, is it level? Is it this? Is it that? So we went through. She said the tower was level. She said that her pump was working. And I just said, is the blue hose come apart? Is it in there floundering around every time it turns on? Because it will spray. And she's like, no. And then someone said, check the roots. And I was like, yes. So if how I've always said, when you look at your towers, you assess your towers, whether it be pH or for nutrients. So part of assessing your tower is opening that water port, okay? Looking in there. If the roots are overgrown, if they are just in there and they're just sucking the nutrients, it's okay if the plant is very mature to go ahead and swipe them and give it a little haircut. Now, this individual did not do that, and this glob here to my right was wrapped around the pump. So you have to check the pump and make sure that is your livelihood to that tower. So you can't let the roots get sucked into the pump or wrapped around, because then it can't do its job. The other thing you can do, like if you have a mature tower, and this is my post now, your rock wall is going to disintegrate. It's going to break down over time, and the roots are going to grow through the net pot into the reservoir, and that's totally okay. But to stop some of the moisture from coming out, take another piece of recycled rock wool, because you all know I've got a recycle bin, and just make a new cover around the stem. So that will stop the seepage, but it will also support that vine. Pick it up a little bit and put that cushion underneath so that the stem isn't driving into the side of the net pot, because eventually it's going to start to cut it as that weight of the fruit is there and it grows. So give it a little pillow. So she was able to get those roots out, and I want to say she salvaged some of it. It looks like she took the tower apart, which I was like, oh boy, that's a lot of roots. And it looks like that may have been underneath and inside. So I'm sure that was quite the job. So let's go ahead and move on. All right. So this is going to be my warning, my caution. It's springtime. And in springtime, we all want to be outside. We want to be oh, awesome, Anthony. I'm just seeing this post now. Excuse me. You made jam. That's amazing. How did it taste? Love it. Um, okay, so back to my warning. We want to be outside. We want to be walking through the woods, parks, and things. And that's normal for us, as especially northern people, because it's cold up here. But here's my caution. You're going to see mushrooms growing on trees and on stumps. If you can't identify them, because this person is saying, please identify new mushrooms. My husband and I like to hike in the park. If you don't know 110% what it is, leave it alone. Don't touch it. I can say for sure this is golden oyster because I've grown them. And oysters come in pink, yellow, and blue. And it's really a wonderful mushroom to eat. It has a lot of great properties, but there are a lot of mushrooms out there that are not edible. Morels are coming up; those are edible, but you need to know what it looks like. So right now, somebody was posting some pictures, and I didn't put them up here for a reason. Up in British Columbia, and the mushroom was like this beautiful red capped with a white stem and these little white spots. It looked like Alice in Wonderland, like you just wanted to eat it like a piece of candy. Don't do it because you could be putting yourself on a psychedelic trip that you did not plan for. So be careful. Don't get on Dr. Google and say, oh, it looks like this. And then you pick it and then you take it home. Leave it alone. The other thing, too, is um, where these are edible mushrooms, there might be animals in the forest that are looking for food, and this might be one of their food sources. So, again, if you didn't actually plant this into logs yourself or on the side of your property, I'd say leave it alone. Because, I don't know for sure who's going to eat it, whether it's fox, raccoons, squirrels, deer, whatever lives out there. But this is a food source for them. So we have to, work together with Mother Nature. Take a picture like they did, post it, and enjoy it. Don't eat it unless you absolutely know for sure and you grew it. Okay, so just be careful out there. So let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so we segue right back into spring. So again, there's some really pretty stuff out there. These flowers. I don't think I've ever seen a peony flower this big before. So she's calling it a bowl of cream. hmm That's what it looks like. It's gorgeous. If you look dead center, it still has room to open. And to the right, you have lady slippers, which is the New Hampshire estate flower. And it's beautiful. It's part of the orchid family, and they grow wild every year. So, um, a quick little story on the lady slippers. So, if my mom's listening, she'll laugh at this because I had to remind her. When I was a little kid, we were all in the woods. I think it was me, my brother, my mom, I don't know, friends. And I may have wandered off a little bit as I always did. And I came back with a few of the flowers. And I remember handing them to her. And I said, look it. And she's like, oh my God, no, because it's their state flower. And there's $100 fine for every lady slipper that you pick. I'm a kid. I had no idea. But the takeaway here is that my gardening started at a very young age. And then I don't remember doing this, but I remember my mom telling me the story that I had gone to a neighbor's house, and again, spring, and I went over and I picked some of the neighbor's tulips, and I brought them back and again gave them to my mom, and she's like, where did you get those? I'm like, the neighbor's house. So grow your flowers in your yard, enjoy them, don't pick your neighbors. If you see something in the wild like the mushrooms and or like these orchids, now it's not just the lady slippers, but there are other beautiful things that are blooming out there. Leave them alone. They belong out there. They're part of Mother Nature. Don't pick them for that 1 or 2 day of giving yourself that. Go buy them where they grow them in a greenhouse, but leave the ones in the woods alone. Take a picture, take it home, because they're there for a reason and it's part of the ecosystem. So Just enjoy them in the splendor. That's why we have eye cameras. So let's go ahead and move on. What's on your tower? So I saw this picture this week and I had to stare at it and I go, what's on the tower? So the first thing on the bottom, it looks like she's got some type of squash. I can't tell whether it's summer and or zucchini, but it looks really, really big and it probably giving her some really good fruit. And then above it, again, it may be like a younger squash plant. And then it looks like she's got some basil. And then I had to email her and said, what's on the left-hand side? Because I couldn't quite make that out. It looked like celery, but it had this yellow stalk. And she told me it was yellow um, collard or something. I'm like, I've never seen that before, but it looks amazing. So if anybody knows exactly what that is, please put that in the comments for me. But she's just, it just, overall, I like the presentation of the tower, how it's kind of got this asymmetrical look on one side, got this beautiful color on the other. Then she's got some house plants, and it just all looks really, really healthy. And it looks like she's got some terracotta stuff out there to the way left. But she really enjoys her gardening, and it's just really, really pretty. I'm going to be very excited when my project in the backyard is done that I could take two of my towers and put them out there for the summer. Um, I'm not sure if it's going to happen this year, maybe next year, we'll see. But the project's going a little bit slower than anticipated. But that's construction for you. Just got to go with the flow and then still go downstairs and enjoy my grow room. That's why it's there. So yes, my pick for a tower this week was this individual's really nice job. I love it. If you guys have pictures of your towers, you can go and send them to towergardeningmadeeasy at gmail.com. Or you can go to the website and hit that contact button. It will take you right to the email. And you can send them. I don't have to post a name, but I would love to share your work because our towers are like art. They every day, every week, every month, they continuously change. So please send. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier. Master those skills and then move on. So when I got my towers, my first towers, I was like, oh, yes. And I remember buying all kinds of seeds on Amazon. I'm going to do this. Blah, 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 blah. So you have to pump the brakes. And the reason why I say that is because master one thing. Master your greens. Let's go the different phases. So phase one is greens, your herbs, maybe even some beans, because those are super easy to grow. Phase two would be cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers. Okay, those are the next phase. And then I would go into summer squash, zucchini, melons, and then if you want to be crazy like me, pumpkins. And the reason why I want you to pump the brakes and go back to the beginning is that greens are very easy to grow. And if you're new on the towers, you're just learning for the first time on how to do the nutrients and how to do your pH and the lighting that they need and the support. If you're indoors, is it by a window, by a door, is it draft? There's all kinds of different variables is what I'm trying to say, that once you've mastered that and you get a whole tower that looks really healthy, that's to your liking and your satisfaction and no problems for at least 3 to 4 weeks, then go to phase two. Okay, you've got your greens, you know how to do that. So if you run into an issue, you know how to fix it. Phase two, introduce tomatoes, cucumbers, and peppers. Those all need to be self-pollinated and they're done differently. So I use an old electric toothbrush to shake out powder from the tomatoes and the peppers. And it's very easy in the morning. I sip my coffee and I like bzz, 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 like a bee, and it just pours out, and then they're pollinated. Cucumber is a little more difficult, but there's so many flowers that you can't mess up. You take a kid's paintbrush and then you get in there and then you scoop out the pollen from the male and pollinate the female. And it's not like a zucchini where there's only like one flower. There's hundreds on the cucumber. So eventually if you pollinate, you're going to get a cucumber or two on the tower. So do you see what I'm saying? Now you're introducing in that level two, that phase two of difficulty and variables that could go wrong because now you're different nutrients and different pH for those guys. So once you master those and then you get some, little cherry tomatoes or your first pollinated cucumber, then you have that skill set. Then And only then do you go to the next phase, which would be your zucchinis and your squash, and then go ahead and master that. Those flowers tend to be bigger. They're kind of time sensitive, so if you miss that window of pollinating, like I do all the time, you got to get in there and you've got to get that pollen out and you got to get it into the female, and then you just pray to God that it's pollinated because you'll know within 24 hours because the flower closes and then that fruit will grow really, really fast. So don't be afraid. But it's again a different skill set. It's going to need different nutrients and different pH. And what I've told people is that if you mix this stuff on your tower like this, I'm just going to go back to this picture for 1 second. Look at this. So she's got her zucchini and her squash here. Again, I don't know what this is right here in the middle. And then she has some herbs and then another green. So I would say her pH probably, I'm hoping she's keeping it around 6, and the nutrients are probably, her EC, I'm going to guess is probably around 2, 2.0, for that combination. Now, how did I get to that? Let me explain. So when you have all of those different phases, greens, phase 2, phase 3 on one tower, what you want to do is you write them all down, what you have on your tower, write down all of your different pHs and all of the ECs. Find a common number in the middle because everything's usually like 1.8 to 2.4. So find that middle number that everybody will be happy, and that's what you keep that tower at. It's not hard. Download the PDF that's on my website, towergardenmadeeasy.com, and you can just put it on a piece of paper, and then that's how you know that you're going to keep that tower very healthy. Okay. So, and you can always contact me and I can walk you through it. But don't go to phase 3 if you haven't mastered phase 1. Master the greens. Because once you do that, you'll understand how to fix something if it goes sideways. Like if you've got a brown leaf or a yellow leaf, you're going to know that's either your pH is off or the nutrients are off. Or if it's cold weather, it could be by a window. Or it could be in an older home where there's a vent where it blows the hot air up. There's all kinds of things. Maybe you have houseplants that are around the towers and now you have bugs. How to get rid of them. Greens grow really, really fast. So if you had to completely take apart a tower, okay, let's just say hypothetically, you had to take the whole thing apart because you had aphids, because you had houseplants near your towers, your greens were going to grow back probably in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks max. However, if you have squash and tomatoes and cucumbers, that's a whole different level of growing. And you're going to have to, you know, take that all out and start over. So master it, phase 1, and move on. Okay. So let's go ahead and segue, move. All right. The way vegetables should taste. Somebody put this out there. I know we've talked about this in other podcasts and even in my lives. When you grow your vegetables on your own tower, they're going to taste a little different. They're going to taste better. Like my husband says, my celery is the best he's ever tasted. It's because it's young and it's flavorful. It's not mass produced in a field with pesticides and herbicides and all kinds of crazy chemicals. And then God knows how it gets here. So when you grow your own peppers and your own tomatoes, my little cherry tomatoes are so sweet. You don't even need dressing. It's that good. My lettuce is really flavorful. So once you start growing your own stuff, that taste is going to just be incredibly delicious, and you're never going to want to go back to the grocery store. And it's so funny that my grow room is so, I won't say advanced, that's the wrong word, full of stuff that I use on a regular basis. I'm starting to go, when was the last time I actually bought something at the grocery store for produce? And it's been a long, long time. And I'm really happy that I'm pretty much independent from that store for produce. I just buy my proteins and I buy them through some stores, but I also go to meat markets as well, like a butcher. So let's go ahead and move on. All right. So I fought this for a little while, but now I tried it and I have to say it does work pretty well. So I've been on a cleaning spree in the grow room that it's time. So your towers need to be turned over, every 3 to 4 months, where you really need to shift things. If you watch that video with the cucumbers where I took everything out because I was fighting that pH, and now I put everything back in. I've gone through that transition phase, and they're growing like a banshee, and I'm down there self-pollinated like crazy. So do yourself a favor and clean out your towers, and don't be like that person. Where was it? Let's take a peek. Let's go back. Don't be like this, because you're going to have all kinds of problems. So um, clean your towers. So how you do this? You buy a jar of citric acid. You can get it at Agway, Home Depot, even online at Amazon. And I think I threw a half a cup, maybe a quarter cup on the first round, and it didn't do enough. So I think I did half a cup. I don't really measure a whole lot. I just gotta throw it in there. And I did a sanitation cycle, and they come out so clean. Oh my God, it's crazy. There was only one tower that had a little extra algae, and I didn't pre-scrub it because I wanted to see how well this worked. And I had to do just one component twice. Everything else came out sparkling clean. So I could honestly say all my towers, pretty much with the exception of the big tomato one, has been turned over and cleaned, so that I've gotten rid of any excess um, roots that are in between the tower components. Any debris that was in the reservoir, those are all clean now. Even the pumps, I scrubbed a little bit. I didn't put them in the dishwasher, but just like that blue hose, just get all the electric cord, just clean everything, start fresh. And then your towers are going to take off. You can actually put those net pots right back in there if you were able to save some of those plants, or just move them to a different clean tower, and keep on going. So try the citric acid in the dishwasher. It worked like a charm. I love this perfectly grown lettuce. I want to say this is red and green. Lettuce. It's like a romaine, maybe, not 100% sure. But what I did notice is that it's just the perfect shape for the tower. And if you watched a previous podcast, using that cut and come again method, you can keep these on your tower for a few months. You can, cut those outside leaves, leaving the crown alone so it continuously grows up and out, and then you just keep clipping all around the tower so that you're not just depleting just one head. And then, after a couple months, you're going to notice that the leaves start to taste a little bit bitter. And that's when you yank that sucker out, cut that rock wall, and have yourself a big, big salad. But this is, when I saw this, I was like, this was really well done. I don't know. I think they may have used one seed, two seed, but this is a lot of patience of growing it to this size. So I would definitely, if you like this kind of lettuce, I would use that cut and come again method for sure. So kudos to them for growing it. Okay, so this is our critter of the week. This freaked me out. It's called a horned tomato worm. I don't know. I stared at this thing and go, what is it? And then I chimed in and said, can someone tell me what this is? And so I guess they have them in the southern states, not necessarily prevalent to the north, but it looks like leaves. Like if you look at this, like last week, you had to kind of stare at that tower to see the lizard. This is the same thing. I'm like, no, that's not a bug. That's a leaf. But I guess they like tomato plants, and they get in there and they wreak havoc by laying lava, and they eat the plants, they eat the leaves, and before you know it, your tomato plant is completely destroyed. So according to what they were saying in this thread, is they go and they buy a special like blue light on Amazon, and you can go because it looks like leaves, and you can shine it like into the tower or onto your tomato plant and see them where the leaves don't reflect a certain color. I guess these guys turn a certain, maybe they look blue or something. I'm not really sure, but then you're able to go ahead and pick them off. But I'm going, if I went out there and I did that and my whole tomato plant was covered with these things, I think I'd be a little nervous. And again, you don't really want to use a pesticide. Maybe you could go back and do that Bronner soap, and water and spray it. And nobody likes that. It's like a hardcore peppermint. Even ants. If you have ants, living on the island, in our old house, we would come for the weekend, and there would be ants all over the counters and in the bathrooms. And it's an island. There's sand everywhere. So those little tiny little ants love it. So, and they get in. And the only thing that worked was the Bronner soap. I would just spray the counters when we left on Friday or Monday, and they don't like it. It's just too strong for them, and they wouldn't come back. And again, it's an all natural thing. so you don't have to worry about, harming your children or your pets or whatever. So yeah, try the Dr. Bronner's. Hopefully it doesn't hurt the plant, but I guess that, you could kind of pick them off too. So, okay, so that's our critter of the week, as creepy as it is. Let's move on. All right, so we're kind of coming down here to the end, a little quick podcast today. Um, and this is my pick of the week. So I love this. This is Peonies are one of my favorite flowers. This bowl of cream, that's what it looks like. And this person grew it, looks like on their property. And it must be a very old plant to grow a head like that. And it's pretty impressive. And it looks like she's got a bloom there to the left, which is quite large. I discovered a peony that was a yellow peony a couple years ago that I had never seen. So if you like peonies, those are super cool too. So this goes out to this individual for the picture of the week. And again, if you've got pictures that you want to send to me and to post, you don't have to put your name out there. Promise won't do that. Please, I'd love to share that with the community. So that brings us into our last screen. So I want you guys to stay tuned to the pumpkin challenge because I'm going to be start working on that today, this afternoon on the first video, and hopefully have that up for you. And again, I built a whole page on the website. You just click on that sign where it says pumpkin challenge. It's going to take you to that page. All of the different videos will be there. It also tells you if you want to join in the challenge, what seed to get, where your pH should be, where your nutrients should be, and you should start them now because it takes 120 days to get a ripe fruit. So that's 4 months. So basically October 1st is hopefully when we'll have our first one, which is perfect because that is fall. And thank you guys so much for joining me. Stay tuned to the Pumpkin Challenge, and I look forward to seeing everybody next Wednesday at 11. So we'll see you very soon.